Forget the banjos, the fog, and the gift shop postcards. Hidden in Appalachia are abandoned towns, underground lakes, sealed cave systems, unexplained lights, and entire communities outsiders never understood. Some survived because people stopped looking for them. And the deeper we go, the less these mountains feel like scenery, and the more they feel like a place still keeping secrets. Number 30. Seneca Rocks, Pendleton County, West Virginia. Come around the bend on Route 33, and the valley stops being polite. A 900-foot blade of bare quartzite shoots straight up out of the green, so sheer it looks pasted in from another country. That's Tuscarora sandstone, tilted nearly vertical by the same collision that built the whole range, then left standing like a fin. Climbers thread up the face all summer. Everybody else just pulls over and tilts their head back. You came for rolling hills. The mountains have teeth. They just don't show them at the overlooks. Number 29. Grayson Highlands, Grayson County, Virginia. Climb past 5,000 feet and the forest quits on you. The trees thin then vanish, and the land opens into wind-scoured grassland that feels nothing like Virginia. Then you see them, wild ponies, shaggy and unbothered, grazing the balds like they own the place. They were brought in to keep the grass down and simply never left. Hikers expecting a green tunnel of oak come out onto something closer to a Scottish moor, with a pony staring them down. It's the rare spot where the whole stereotype of these mountains gets contradicted by livestock. Number 28. Roan Mountain, Mitchell County, North Carolina, and Carter County, Tennessee. For a few weeks every June, this ridgeline catches fire without a flame, miles of wild rhododendron exploding purple, the largest natural gardens of their kind on Earth. The rest of the year, it is a long, grassy bald crowned with spruce and fir that feel borrowed from Canada, and the wind never really stops. Locals built one of the country's oldest mountain festivals around that bloom. Show up the right week, and it is unforgettable. Show up late, and the mountain just shrugs and waits another year. So far, we have found teeth in the rock, wild ponies above the tree line, and a mountain that blooms on a schedule. But if you think Appalachia only hides scenery, the next few places destroy that idea completely. Number 27. The Lost Sea, Sweetwater, Monroe County, Tennessee. Picture this. 140 feet under a Tennessee hillside sits the largest underground lake in the country, and nobody knows how big it actually is. Divers keep pushing into the Craighead Caverns system and keep finding more water, more rooms, more dark. Early explorers rode out with torches and never found a far wall. One is said to have fired a shotgun at the ceiling just to gauge the size of the room by the echo. It's so clear that they couldn't judge its depth at all. The Cherokee left pottery down here. A prehistoric jaguar left its bones in the mud. Step inside today and the air hits you cold and damp, the temperature frozen year-round. Every footstep swallowed by stone. Visitors describe the same thing, a hush so complete it feels like the mountain is holding its breath. You drift across it on a glass-bottom boat, lantern light, sliding over water no human has ever touched the bottom of. Number 26. Linville Gorge, Burke County, North Carolina. They call it the Grand Canyon of the East, and standing on the rim, you stop rolling your eyes. The chasm drops roughly 2,000 feet to the Linville River, walled in by Jonas Ridge on one side and Linville Mountain on the other. It's among the deepest gorges in the eastern United States, and one of the least forgiving terrain that keeps search and rescue teams permanently on call. The soft, friendly version of these mountains forgets one thing. They can drop straight out from under you. Number 25. Brown Mountain, Burke County, North Carolina. Stand here long enough after dark and you might see them, strange lights, drifting and bobbing over a low, unremarkable ridge. The Cherokee had an explanation centuries before anyone else showed up. They said the lights were the spirits of women, searching the slopes for warriors lost in an ancient battle. By the early 1900s, newspapers were running breathless reports of mysterious glows that no one could source. The Geological Survey rolled in back in 1922 and pinned it on train and car headlights. Case closed. Except the lights kept appearing after a flood wiped out the trains and the roads entirely. Eyewitnesses described them the same way over and over: a reddish or pale orb that rises, hovers, splits, then simply winks out. Scientists at Appalachian State still aim instruments at that ridge and come back without a clean answer. Most mysteries die the moment someone explains them. This one survived its own debunking and just kept glowing. Number 24, Point Pleasant, Mason County, West Virginia. A quiet river town famous for 13 strange months in the 1960s when people swore they saw a winged figure with red eyes out by an old World War II munitions site they call the TNT area. The concrete bunkers are still out there, sinking into the brush, doors hanging open. Instead of burying the story, the town leaned all the way in and built a small economy on it. Folklore here did not fade into a campfire tale. It turned into infrastructure. We are a quarter of the way down. The mountains have shown us teeth, a bottomless lake, unexplained lights, and a monster with its own gift shop. The geology is about to get genuinely impossible. Number 23, Saltville, Smith County, Virginia. This valley is so saturated with salt that Ice Age giants gathered here by the herd. Mammoths and mastodons drawn to the mineral springs to drink and lick the briny mud. Many got stuck in that mud, died, and were pickled into the ground, which is why it's now one of the richest Ice Age fossil sites in the East. Crews have pulled mammoth teeth, tusks, and the bones of long-extinct musk oxen straight out of the valley floor, and the local museum keeps the finds on display just steps from where they were dug. The same brine made it priceless again, thousands of years later, as a critical Confederate salt supply fought over directly in the Civil War. Walk that ground, and you're standing on a layer cake, prehistoric beasts below, war history just above. Salt built this place twice, in 2 different centuries. If you think we've already seen the strangest of it, slow down, because the next stretch is where the mountains stop following the rules entirely. Number 22, Red River Gorge, Wolfe County, Kentucky. More than 100 natural cistone arches hide in this one gorge, one of the densest collections anywhere east of the Mississippi. They formed slowly, soft stone crumbling out from under harder caps until what was left stood in mid-air. Plenty of them sit nowhere near a trail. You only find them when you scramble up under a ledge and suddenly there's sky where rock should be. The desert Southwest gets all the credit for arches. Kentucky quietly outbuilds half of it and never says a word. Number 21, Lost Cove, Avery County, North Carolina. Imagine hiking here today. High on a slope above Harper Creek, stone walls and overgrown clearings mark a town people simply walked away from. It started as a tucked-away settlement that leaned on the nearby railroad line down in the gorge to move out timber and bring supplies in. When the trains stopped running reliably and the work dried up, the families were left stranded miles from any usable road. And one by one, they gave up and left, the last of them clearing out by the 1950s. No road reaches it even now. You climb in to find chimney stacks and foundations going soft under the moss, rusted bed frames, and broken crockery still scattered in the leaves, all swallowed inside a 14,000-acre wilderness that's one of the least touched corners of Pisgah National Forest. There's no plaque, no rope line, nothing curated. Out here, you learn how fast these mountains take a town back the moment nobody's holding on. Number 20, the Sinks of Gandy, Randolph County, West Virginia. Gandy Creek runs flat across a meadow, hits a mountain, and just disappears into it, gone underground for about 3/4 of a mile before it surfaces on the far side. There's no ticket booth, no handrail. There never was. To get through, you wade straight into the mouth of the cave and follow the water in the dark, the ceiling dropping low enough in spots that you stoop. The cold creek tugging at your legs and the sound of it echoing off walls you can't see. Generations of local families have made the traverse a summer tradition, fathers leading kids through by flashlight the same way they were led through as children. It's a rite of passage disguised as a creek. The mountains don't always climb over the obstacle. Sometimes they swallow the water whole. The deeper we go, the less this feels like a travel list, and the more it feels like a hidden archive. And the next stretch is where the mountains start bending the rules. Number 19. Cooter Sport Ice Mine, Potter County, Pennsylvania. Here's one that runs backwards. A small shaft in the mountainside grows thick columns of ice all through the summer, then melts them off in the dead of winter, the exact opposite of everything you'd expect. Cold air drains down and gets trapped in the rock, freezing when the calendar says it shouldn't. It sits up in that empty north-central stretch locals half-jokingly call Pennsylvania's last frontier. The range keeps its own thermostat. It does not consult the seasons. Number 18. Helen, White County, Georgia. By the 1960s, this North Georgia lumber town was dying, so it made a deeply strange bet. It would survive by pretending to be Bavaria. Cobblestone facades, gingerbread trim, alpine rooflines, Oktoberfest running almost year-round. None of it remotely native to the southern Appalachians. And it worked. People pour into a real mountain town wearing a borrowed European costume. Sometimes around here, preservation doesn't mean keeping what you were. It means becoming somewhere else entirely. Number 17. Mount Mitchell, Yancey County, North Carolina. At 6,684 feet, it's the highest point anywhere east of the Mississippi. And most people blow right past the turnoff chasing a lower, prettier view. Up top, the air goes cold and the forest changes to spruce and fir with the climate of Canada, a pocket of the far north stranded on a southern summit. Elisha Mitchell, the man it's named for, died measuring this peak and is buried right at the top. The South has been hiding a piece of the boreal North at its ceiling the whole time. Number 16. Mole Hill, Rockingham County, Virginia. In the middle of Shenandoah Valley farm country sits a tidy wooded hump that 10 generations of locals have treated as just another hill. It's a volcano, an eroded volcanic neck, roughly 47 million years old, one of the only things of its kind in the region, hiding between the cornfields. No smoke, no warning sign, no fanfare. The Appalachians have a volcano. They just file it under scenery and keep their mouth shut. Number 15. Centralia, Columbia County, Pennsylvania. In 1962, a coal seam under this town caught fire, and it has not gone out since. More than 60 years later, it is still burning down there in the dark, and the town on top is essentially gone. The state condemned the buildings, the people left, and the Postal Service revoked the zip code like it was scrubbing the place off the map. A tiny handful of residents fought in court to stay and live out their lives, and a few of their homes still stand alone among empty lots. If you walk here now, you'll find smoke and steam venting straight up out of cracks in the soil, faintly warm to the touch in winter. For years, a cracked, abandoned stretch of Route 61 nearby drew visitors who covered every inch of it in spray paint, the so-called graffiti highway, until it was buried under dirt to keep the crowds away. Geologists say the fire could burn another 100 years. Some Appalachian towns didn't fade away. They got evicted by the ground itself. We've found a town on fire, a backwards ice cave, and a hidden volcano. But the next few places aren't about strange geology. They're about people who stayed who got moved, and who nobody could explain. Number 14. The Road to Nowhere, Swain County, North Carolina. A 2-lane highway climbs up into the Smokies, runs through a finished stone tunnel, and then simply ends. Dirt, trees, wilderness, nothing. When Fontana Dam went up in the 1940s, it flooded the valley and the old road that connected a string of mountain communities, scattering those families for good. The government promised to build them a new road along the lake, a way back to the homesteads, and especially the family cemeteries now cut off on the far shore. Then the money dried up and the project was abandoned mid-mountain. For decades, descendants could only reach their ancestors' graves by boat or by long guided hikes. Locals still remember the broken promise, and they named the road themselves out of slow-burning resentment. The name stuck. It's a monument to a handshake nobody honored. The most honest road sign in the whole range is the one admitting the road goes nowhere. Number 13. Whitesburg, Appalachia, Letcher County, Kentucky. Deep in coal country, in a town outsiders would write off in a sentence, sits one of the most important rural media archives in America. For over 50 years, Appalachia has recorded the real thing: mountain ballads, miners' oral histories, strikes, funerals, the dialect, all of it filmed by locals, not by a crew that parachuted in and left. In 2022, catastrophic floods tore through the building and damaged thousands of irreplaceable films and tapes, and archivists across the country rushed in to help freeze, clean, and salvage the footage frame by frame. Among what they protect are recordings of ballad singers and craftspeople long gone, voices that exist nowhere else on Earth. The culture the rest of the country flattened into a punchline has been documenting itself this whole time. These people never needed someone else to tell their story. They were already keeping the record, reel by reel. Number 12. Cataloochee Valley, Haywood County, North Carolina. Most visitors have no idea this valley exists. Tucked into a remote fold of the Smokies, a whole farming community of more than 1,000 people once lived here until the creation of Great Smoky Mountains National Park in the 1930s cleared everyone out, leaving the churches, the schoolhouse, and the frame houses standing empty in the grass. Drive in at dusk now and you'll find elk grazing between the buildings, reintroduced to a place the people were removed from. White clapboard chapels with no congregation. To this day, descendants of those displaced families return for reunions, holding services in the old church and tending the graves their grandparents were forced to leave behind. A homecoming heavy with everything that was taken. It's a ghost town with a herd moving through it. Number 11, Cumberland Gap, Bell County, Kentucky, Claiborne County, Tennessee, and Lee County, Virginia. For generations, this was the door to the West, a single notch in an unbroken wall of mountains, where hundreds of thousands of settlers funneled through on a buffalo trace that became the Wilderness Road. Picture the wagons stacked up, waiting their turn at the one gap that worked. Then the modern world bored a highway tunnel clean underneath it and restored the original trail up top to forest. You can walk that old path now in near silence. The gap moved an entire country, then quietly went back to being woods. The further down we go, the more this becomes a story about survival, about what people held on to when the world tried to erase it. Number 10, Blue Hole, Falling Water, Cherokee County, North Carolina. Out in the far western tip of the state, past where most tourists ever bother to drive, there are deep swimming holes and falls on land the eastern band of Cherokee have used for generations. These aren't photo op pull-offs. They're working local waters, where the people who never left actually go on a hot afternoon. No signage steering you in because they were never meant for you. The famous version of these mountains drives right past the part that's still genuinely, quietly lived in. Number 9, Dungeon and Schoolhouse Caves, Pendleton County, West Virginia. The limestone under these eastern ridges is honeycombed with wild caves, and most are locked now. Steel gates seal the entrances, not to keep secrets, but to protect the bats inside from white nose syndrome, a fungal disease that has already killed millions across the east. So an entire underground world sits closed off limits by necessity. The mountains have a vast basement carved over millions of years, and right now, almost nobody is allowed down the stairs. Number 8. Thurmond, Fayette County, West Virginia. Down in the New River Gorge sits a town that once moved more freight tonnage than Cincinnati, a roaring railroad hub packed with hotels, banks, and crews around the clock. At its peak, it bustled. Today, the official population has fallen to single digits, the kind of number you can list by name. The depot still stands, restored, facing the tracks, and coal trains still rumble through, just without any reason to stop. If you stand on the platform now, all you hear is the river, the wind, and the occasional groan of a passing freight car. Empty storefronts and silent buildings line the strip where a whole working town used to be. There's no main street, because there never was one. The railroad was the street. The tracks were the whole point. Thurmond is what a boomtown looks like long after the company packs up and the trains stop slowing down. 5 left. Everything from here down is about people who held on to something the outside world tried to rename, relocate, or explain away. This is where the mountains keep their deepest secrets. Number 7. Mount Airy, Surry County, North Carolina. This is the real town that inspired television's Mayberry, and then did something genuinely odd. It rebuilt itself around the fictional version of itself. Squad car tours, a replica courthouse, the whole nostalgic loop, selling a sitcom's idea of small-town America back to the visitors who drive in for it. A real Appalachian mill town now performs a make-believe Appalachian town for a living. The eerie part isn't the nostalgia. It's a real place, imitating a fake place that was based on the real place. Number 6. Horsepens 40, St. Clair County, Alabama. Most people don't even know the Appalachians reach Alabama. They do, and at the southern tail, they end in chaos. A mountaintop here is choked with enormous sandstone boulders used by native peoples, later as a natural livestock corral, later still as a Civil War hideout. Today, it's a world-class bouldering destination almost no one outside climbing has heard of. The range doesn't taper off into gentle foothills and politely quit. Down here, it shatters into a maze of stone. Number 5. Helvetia, Randolph County, West Virginia. A cluster of Swiss immigrants founded this village back in the 1860s, and it was so cut off that the old country never wore off. They still hold Fasnacht, a masked midwinter festival, where the whole community parades in hand-carved masks, packs into the old community hall to dance to fiddle and accordion, and finally burns an effigy of Old Man Winter on a bonfire to drive the cold away. The food is straight from the Alps: homemade sausages, Swiss cheese, dense dark bread, and fruit pies cooled on windowsills. Imagine snow falling on a tiny mountain hamlet while masked figures parade by lantern light and music spills out the hall doors. Fewer than 60 people live here. It survived not by performing its heritage for tourists, but by being too remote to change. Some places keep the old world alive simply because nobody could reach them. Number 4. The coal towns of McDowell County. McDowell County, West Virginia. This was once the most productive coal county in the state. Its mines fed the nation's furnaces and warships, and at its peak in the 1950s, nearly 100,000 people lived packed into these hollows. Today, the population has fallen by roughly 80%, one of the steepest collapses in the entire country. Drive the narrow valley roads, and you pass boarded storefronts, empty company houses, churches with thinning congregations. The hardship is real, and there's no dressing it up. The work left, and the people followed it out the door. But families stayed too, and they hold a fierce pride the headlines flatten into a single word: decline. Locals will tell you straight, this ground-powered America for a century. This is the bill for that wealth, written across the hollows that dug it out. Number 3, Cherokee and Kituwa, Swain County, North Carolina. This is the mother town, the very spot the eastern band of Cherokee trace their origin to, the spiritual center of their world for thousands of years. Home to the sacred mound where the eternal council fire once burned. For most of 2 centuries, it sat in private hands as ordinary farmland until 1996, when the Eastern Band bought it back and reclaimed the ground their people came from. These are the descendants of those ordered west on the Trail of Tears, whose ancestors hid in these exact mountains rather than go and stayed. Stand in that field, and you're on a place that was sacred before England existed. Every ghost town on this list is an infant next to it. The oldest human presence in the entire range never actually left. Number 2, Hatfield-McCoy Country, Mingo County, West Virginia, and Pike County, Kentucky. Along the Tug Fork, where Kentucky and West Virginia meet, the most famous feud in American history played out for real. And the graves, home sites, and battlegrounds are still right there, now threaded with TV trails carrying the family names. Most people picture toothless hillbillies blasting away over a stolen pig, but the real story was tangled in Civil War loyalties, timber and land money, and a bitterly contested election that pulled in lawmen and state governments on both sides. You can still visit the Hatfield Family Cemetery with its life-size statue of patriarch Devil Anse, and stand on the actual ground where the killings happened. Locals here grew up knowing exactly which families sat on which side, and many are direct descendants who'll tell you the legend gets it wrong. The cartoon is a punchline. The mountains hold the grudge far more honestly than the legend ever did. Number 1, Newman's Ridge and Vardy, Hancock County, Tennessee. High on a remote ridge lived the Melungeons, a people of mixed heritage who baffled outsiders for 2 full centuries. Theories about where they came from have never stopped. Shipwrecked Portuguese sailors, descendants of early Spanish or Turkish settlers, a blend of European, African, and native ancestry that simply predated the records. Whatever the truth, they were too varied, too in between, to fit any of the boxes the census takers carried up the mountain. For that, they were pushed to the margins, denied schooling, barred from voting in places, branded with a label that started as an insult, and pressured for generations to be something simpler than they were. So much so that many families stopped speaking of it at all. A restored schoolhouse and church down at Vardy Anchor, what's left of the memory, and today their descendants scattered across the country, many only learning their heritage through DNA tests and old family stories, are reclaiming the name with pride. Picture a community holding its ground on a ridgeline so isolated the rest of the world only showed up to argue about what they were. Here's the thing, the strangest secret in this whole range isn't a place at all. It's a people the outside world could never manage to categorize. The deepest hidden thing in the Appalachians is a version of identity that simply refused to fit anyone else's map. So the next time someone hands you the postcard, the fog, the banjos, the gift shop bear, remember what's underneath it. These mountains are less a range than a living archive. Buried fires, bottomless lakes, sealed caves, lost towns, and old identities that outlasted everyone who tried to erase them. We've barely scratched the surface because there are still hollows and ridgelines out there, keeping things nobody outside them has ever written down. Tell me in the comments, what's the Appalachian place the locals near you keep to themselves? If this was your kind of journey, subscribe and let the next one start playing right there on your screen.